Well, Bula everybody, and thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. I think Mr. Brown did the easy part of it, to tell you how easy it is to get to Fiji and be here, which is the interesting one. But I'm going to do the easier bit, which is why you can be in Fiji or why you need to be in Fiji. That's apart from the golfers who, can't miss an opportunity to have played with Vijay Singh last week or Nick Price. Where else do you get an opportunity like that? But it was fantastic. Those of you that are golfers would know. It's an amazing course, and if you haven't been there already, I strongly recommend that you do. It's a wonderful place. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about what opportunities I believe Fiji present, and I do believe that might be of some interest to you. I've had a brief look at the profiles, and I must say that one of the things that totally skipped my mind is that on training. I think there's huge opportunities here, trust me. But I will talk about manufacturing and the other thing, because that's what I specialize in, and the group that I represent is called the Haripunja and Sons group of companies. The one that I think spoke about in your brochure or the program was FMF, which is a subsidiary. But let me walk you through technological glitches. Yeah, well, that's a brief profile of the Haripunja and Sons group of companies. Is it possible to switch this light off? Is that the one on top there? Because it's a bit... this is the main holding company, and we have subsidiaries which are under the foods group. That's the FMF group of companies. Under the energy group, which is petroleum and gas, and then there's the financial services. And apart from the subsidiaries, there's also major investments, which I'll talk about. But the food groups is the group that I manage directly, and that comprises FMF Foods. It used to be called Flour Mills of Fiji, and that's what it's more popularly known as. And if you drove in from Nandi or anywhere there, you would have seen almost all the villages bearing a logo with FMF, which looks a bit like this. That's the village identities that we have been able to provide, and something that works in a symbiotic relationship between the villagers and our company. We are a listed company on the South Pacific Stock Exchange, and we have 7 companies as subsidiaries, 2 others being listed again on the stock exchange. One is the Rice Company of Fiji, and the other is the Atlantic and Pacific Packaging Company. So the foods group, I will walk you through briefly. On the energy side, we have we bottle LPG gas for domestic and industrial use, and a few years ago we embarked on a project to make biodiesel. But unfortunately, the biodiesel project didn't quite kick off because one of the technologies that we deployed was not so suited unless there was a subsidy from the government. And in the absence of that, we found that it was not really viable. So we now shed the biodiesel part of it, but we continue making coconut oil, which we export to many countries. On the financial services side, we have the Dominion Insurance Company, which just a month ago, or less than a month ago, we have sold to a PNG entity. I'm sorry, this chart is a bit dated, but Dominion Finance remains, and that takes the top rung here. And below that are the various property holding companies that we have. And on the major investments, the Haripunja and Sons group is invested majorly into Fiji Television, which is Fiji's national television station, the largest, and also into a few property development companies. It's one of the premier business entities. We turn over about $300 million, of which $80 million worth is exported. We have 1,042 employees across the group, and we are Fiji based in all our operations, but we do market to over 20 countries. Our products reach about 20 countries out of Fiji. The FMF Foods, which was previously Flour Mills of Fiji, is listed, as I said, on the stock exchange, and we make flour, rice, peas, biscuits, noodles, chips, and we also have a trading arm, and we have properties in our fold. These are some of the types of flour that we make: normal flour, sharps, atta, roti, wholemeal, chakki, apart from baker's flour. And we have a roughly 70% share of the Fiji market on flour. One of the things that we pioneered in this part of the world was fortification of flour with iron and other minerals to tackle the anemia problem that this region faces. This is just some of our product portfolio. The flours on this side. We also have rice, and on rice we have a collaboration with Sunrise Australia. So if you see here, you find that it's a double badged Sunrise FMF product. So we have the Calrose medium grain, and we have the Australian long grain, which we source from Australia and market here as a co-branded product. All our wheat is Australian, 100% Australian wheat, which we import. And right now, one of our ships that has brought about 30,000 tons is lying in anchor, just waiting to come in and discharge the consignment of wheat. We make a variety of biscuits, and some of which I will show you later. We also make noodles, we make chips, and cardboard cartons, which are the less attractive of the products that we make. Coconut oil, which I mentioned, we bottle and export to many countries as well as sell here. Chips and noodles being our latest two products. And this is something that we're proud of, because the chips was one way for us to look at import substitution. Before we started Thumbs Up Pareto chips here, there was only Ripples. It used to be called Ripples. Now I think it's called ETA. And Bluebird. And today you'll have to search in a lot of shops before you can find reasonably priced, reasonably dated potato chips from overseas. So just to give you an indication, and why that has been or how that has been enabled is something I'll share with you. But the manufacture of chips and noodles was something that we looked at from an import substitution point of view, as well as providing employment to farmers locally. Although at this point in time we do import our potatoes out of New Zealand, but we also have cassava and taro chips for which the raw material is sourced locally. And our chow noodles is a new product, relatively new. It's just about 6 years old in the market. And prior to that, noodles used to be spelled M-A-G-G-I here, which is pretty much the way it's spelled in most parts of the world. But safe to say now that we have almost a 35 to 40% share of the Fiji market. So which shows you that if you do things right here, there's tremendous opportunity to grow in this sector. Just a chart of what our turnover has looked like over the last, I'm sorry, this again is a bit dated. This is at about 202. We're right now looking at $265 million turnover for the FMF group of companies. And our exports, as you can see, the sharp growth in exports, because one thing about Fiji is that the population being 800,000 is so limited that if you don't export your product, you pretty much have to either eat it or you have to throw it out into the sea, so as landfill. So export market is a very important market for us, and we focus a lot on the products. As you can see, the shifting focus. In 2004, only 17% of our production was exported. By 2012, we have 38% being exported. And 2 years in succession, 2011 and 12, we won the Prime Minister's Exporter of the Year award, and last year we won the Large Manufacturing Exporter of the Year as well. Our export markets, unfortunately, are dots in the ocean here. You can't see many of them. But Australia is a fairly large market, and chances are that you may have consumed a product or two that we make here, as is New Zealand. We also export to USA and Canada. This is one of our products, which is a bit like the Tim Tam that you might be used to. We pride ourselves in our Scotch finger, and if you haven't tried it, I strongly recommend you do. You will not curse me for that. Well, this is something that you may have tasted. These are the Woolworths home brands that we make here. So quite a few of these you may have had opportunity to try in Australia. We also make the budget biscuits. All Griffin's creams, wherever you consume them worldwide, are made in our factory here in Suva. All the Griffin's creams. These are some of our customers: Coles, Griffin's, Aldi, Fonterra, Budget, Metcash, Black and Gold. In New Zealand, we have Pack and Save, Warehouse, Franklin's. So this is where the bulk of our exports go to. And the reason we've been able to do that is we've been consistently investing in top-class facilities. We have state-of-the-art production plant kept to Australian and New Zealand standards on hygiene, sanitation, safety. And we have all the required certification because we believe that this is a primary entry point for us to be able to export into these markets. So not only do we have the highest level of food certification, food safety certification, which is SQF level 3, but we also have HACCP, which is today almost an entry in the food sector, and the US FDA as well. Obviously enabled by continuously trained staff on the job as well as in classroom situations. But what is important, or what helps us, I do believe in a large way, is the brand Fiji. And I just want to walk you through what I believe contributes to brand Fiji. The fact that in the Pacific, when you travel around, you might see that if you, I think you have one-on-one sessions over the next few days. So you will see that the manufacturing sector is really evolved in Fiji compared to most of the island economies. And we like to believe that we not only are, but have the opportunity to become an even larger hub for manufacturing in this region. The quality clearly in this part of the world is perceived ahead of Asian quality. In fact, 2012, when I went to Griffin's to renew the agreement, the purchase manager threw a dossier at me with 17 countries that he had visited and 105 biscuit factories that he had been to. And he told me out of that 37 countries he had, companies he had shortlisted which could match us, or which could match all of Griffin's criteria, and 2 that were willing or possible for them to overnight substitute us. And their quote on an average was 93 New Zealand cents and ours was $1.01. So he asked me this question. He says, why should I renew this contract? And he didn't in 2012. But 2.5 years later, they continue to buy from us even without a contract. And a large part of that is because the hygiene, safety, sanitation standards that we maintain are much superior to that of Asia. And I believe that that's something that's ingrained in the culture here because of the close nexus that we've had and collaboration we've always had with Australia and New Zealand and the standards that we adopt emanating from these 2 countries. The markets are clearly closer to us, so we understand these markets better. And from here, we're able to customize not only on things like price, which we know what sort of prices would sell in these island economies, but we're able to do things like last-minute orders. You know, just before the ship leaves, this guy calls us and says, can you load 1 more container, please? And so from 5 containers, it becomes 6 containers, which we can do here. And it's not possible out of Asia or out of larger economies to be able to be that flexible on some of the shipping that the customers require. And importantly, I think the size of orders. There is a manufacturer here, I don't know if it's part of your schedule, who makes almost all the AFL and NRL t-shirts. And I saw someone here had an interest on manufacturing t-shirts. Almost every NRL t-shirt that's worn in Australia is manufactured by this person here. And the reason is they're able to do small quantities. You don't have to do the 2,000 or 5,000 that China requires you to order if they are to supply. And in fact, he's now even got into the Irish and the UK market and exports t-shirts there as well. So small order quantities is a huge advantage that we have in this part of the world. We have been able to knock, I must say to your detriment, a lot of the Australian producers out of the island market, because we believe that the value that we're able to add here comes at a significantly lower cost compared to the wage rates that prevail in Australia and New Zealand. So a lot of markets where flour used to be sold out of Australia is no longer Australian market. It's now serviced by Fiji. And the fact that it is on the standards that we have drawn from Australia and New Zealand. And also where we have a natural advantage is where we might be able to really provide value, and where there's raw material proximity such as timber. And I do believe that someone or the other from Investment Fiji may have spoken to you at length on all these opportunities, so I'm not going to really delve into that, except that, as I mentioned, training was something that I didn't put here, and is something that is very seriously or a serious opportunity in Fiji. In fact, just a month ago we got a training faculty from Australia to come and train our people. So these are the sort of opportunities that present here on the training side. But importantly, apart from raw material, is non-price competition, such as the perception of Fiji and the value that the word Fiji provides, such as Fiji water or pure Fiji when you're looking at cosmetics, and essentially, you know, unspoiled, pure, virgin, and that's the sort of thing that lends itself very well to products which are to be ingested, such as food or, you know, water, mineral water and things like that. On the non-price side is also the fact that the consumer culture is similar in the PICs, Pacific Island countries, and therefore there's comfort in dealing. The people who buy our products are very comfortable dealing with us compared to a steep learning curve that they experience when they try to buy something out of Asia. So I do believe that a lot of manufacturing opportunities are available in Fiji for the export market. And of course, there's strategic reasons why I believe that manufacture would always thrive in Fiji. One, the food security, so things like food, agriculture, food processing would always remain there. There's a trade balance imperative, and therefore the need for Fiji to manufacture goods and export them out and try and restore the trade imbalance that exists presently, and of course employment generation and income generation. And then we have some very favorable regional trade agreements, such as the Melanesian Spearhead Group agreement with the MSG countries, Sparteca with Australia, and the PICTA with all the Pacific Island countries. So these are things where we have duty advantages, and I do believe that going forward, from what I've seen, the national trade policy does provide for retention and protection of certain industries where we believe that these would be critical to employment generation and sustenance of revenue. There's proximity to the Pacific Island countries, and therefore a much better ability to service these places out of Fiji than some of the other countries. The freight from here is fairly economical. As I said, we are a small economy ourselves. Our factories are relatively small, and therefore we are in a position to cater to small market needs, and doesn't necessarily have to be a minimum order of 2,000 tons for us to be able to do something. We have, being close by, availability is much quicker because we have products here and we can ship them at short notice. Sky Pacific, which operates all across the Pacific Island countries, is a single medium through which you can reach all the Pacific Island countries, or most of them. The University of South Pacific is a fairly big hub, and considering that there are a lot of international students there, this gives an exposure to our products. So when they go back, they go there knowing about our products, and something that we find then marketing much easier in those countries. We have the same banks operating in all the regions, and there are some very interesting tax incentives, such as weighted deductions on marketing expenses. And I do believe the FERCA people, the revenue people, would have given you all the tax incentives that are now prevalent with the 2014 and 2013 budgets. And I think with more interaction and exposure to Fiji, the markets are growing, and we're finding it easier to penetrate these markets. I spoke about tariff protection. There's a well-educated English-speaking workforce at an affordable cost. Infrastructure is not top of the world, but certainly good in this region. The tax and tax incentives, there's a high liquidity in the market here. At one point in time, there was $712 million which was lying idle and banks were falling over each other to lend. They're still falling over each other, although the amount is still not, I mean, it's come significantly below, but it's come to a very manageable level, but it's still easy to get funding. And I think the macroeconomic indicators are very positive. The growth has been 3.8, it's projected at 3.8% this year, which I think in the Pacific context is a fantastic growth rate, barring PNG, which is in double digits, but or very lopsidedly. And I think livability is something that people come here, and quite often media in many other countries is unfair. But if you look for an army officer here, you'll probably struggle. But if you want to know where there's one, I can show you. There's one outside the president's palace, and he doesn't move. He's one of those, like the Buckingham Palace guys, beef eaters. He doesn't move from his position. So he's probably the only army guy you will see in this country. And what we've experienced over the last 4 or 5 years, and we definitely like to believe, is that the government has been listening, because one of the reasons why the economy has grown the way it has is that there's been a pressing demand from the business community to ensure stability in taxation and policies. And that's the single most important thing that has happened, which has enabled growth in the manner that we have seen. What detracts? Clearly, there are factors which detract. I think the size of the domestic market is one. We're just 800,000 people. Therefore, economies of scale become an issue. In a small island economy, productivity is never something that's focused on like some of the Asian countries. We have shortages in skilled tradespeople. Our access to R&D and technology is relatively low. In many ways, we're in the boondocks, so it doesn't come to us easy. And being where we are, logistically, we're quite often inconvenienced by, erratic shipping schedules and things like that. The government does engage in wage determination, and to the private sector that can sometimes be a bit of a damper, although I must say that the wage rate that the government has fixed is not high. So right now I think what they're looking at is $3.15 per hour, which in the manufacturing sector, which really is nothing. But our point is that if the government doesn't get into that, then it allows us to look at productivity linkage for wage fixation, rather than the government coming in and trying to impose a minimum wage in that manner. So that's the only damper. And utilities do cost a bit, although we are much cheaper than most of the other island economies here. But what can comfort us is that we don't look at the market as 800,000 strong. We look at the entire Pacific as our market. So we look at a market of 10 million people, not 800,000. And as you can see, considering that 40% of our products are exported, that's clearly the market that it's servicing. We have, as opposed to economies of scale, you have the advantage of being able to cater to smaller orders. And that's something that bears well. Productivity, we are initiating measures, looking at how we can bring that in. The government has, in its budget, put in a lot of provisions for training on tertiary skills. And that's something that will roll out going forward, where a lot more people will go through technical institutes and get trained. So hopefully we'll have that provided. Australia and New Zealand don't steal all our tradespeople. If there's a travel ban required, I insist it's on these people, not on others. On R&D and technology, we are hoping that Budget 2015 might provide us some SOPs that will allow us to invest in R&D and get some effective tax breaks. But otherwise, we pretty much need to source this from overseas, and maybe joint ventures is a good way to source technologies. As opposed to logistical challenges and walking the tightrope on that, is the fact that interest costs are relatively low. So we don't mind holding products here, inventory here for a little bit longer, because it doesn't cost us the earth to do that. And it helps us to overcome the anxieties of shortages in supply. Wage determination, our plea to the government has always been that rather than fixing a minimum wage, why don't you try and enforce the minimum wage that's there, make sure that everyone's paying it. So rather than bumping up the wage at every point, because then what happens is only those that are in the organized sector get targeted, whereas a lot of those that are not in the organized sector get away without even paying the minimum wage. So our emphasis has been more on getting the government to focus on enforcement rather than just bumping up the minimum wage all the time. Yeah, I think while there are challenges, those that are innovative enough to overcome these will definitely be in a position to benefit from these. I think this is something that I wanted to show. This is a graph of the demographics, the population. And these are Melanesian countries, Micronesia, Polynesia, and Australia. Now, if you look at this, this is the age here, the age group 0 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14. You will see here that in all these Melanesian, Micronesian countries, Polynesian, there's a huge demographic dividend that we would be able to reap in the near future, as opposed to Australia and New Zealand, which pretty much have beer bellies at the moment. And I think this is an area where you will find that the demographic dividends will become far more difficult to reap going forward. And this is the median age here, where you see New Zealand is almost at about 37, and you have Fiji at 27, Melanesia at 22, Polynesia at 25, and Micronesia again at about 25, 26, 27. So huge advantage compared to the other countries here. And this is what Professor Ross Guest of Griffith University said, that we need not fear the aging population facing advanced economies, and that we will definitely boost GDP per capita in the years to come. And I think that's a huge takeaway from that presentation that I was at, that there's going to be growth here in the next 30, 40 years. I think these island countries will outstrip the developed economies in growth. Well, so you might ask me, what is FMF doing about it? And I would say that this is really the proof of the pudding. I'm sorry, I'd expected a slightly larger projection equipment, but this is the investment we've done between 2004 and 13, which is $77 million. From 2004, new biscuit factory, new packaging plant line, again a biscuit line, third biscuit line, chips factory, noodles factory, 8,000-ton wheat silo. So in the last 10 years between 2004 and 13, we've invested $77 million. But between 2014 and committed up to June 2015, that's 18 months, we are outlaying $76 million. So $77 million in 10 years, $76 million in the last 18 months. Or not 18 months, in the last 6 months plus another 12 months going forward. And these are the projects that we have. We're bumping up our wheat storage capacity from 19,000 tons to 52,000 tons. And 8,000 of which has already been put in, and the balance 24 or a little more than that is under construction. By October, that will be ready. The group is investing. Apart from that, we've recently set up a new company called Bakery Company of Fiji, where we're making biscuits specially for the PNG market. We are also looking at new conveyors, IT upgrades, packaging machines, and things like that. On the residential side, under Haripunja and Sons, we are investing 9 million into a property development in Denarau. I'm not sure if you've been to Denarau yet or whether you're slated to go there. But Denarau is this island just off Nandi, which is a beautiful place, and we've just bought over the last piece of freehold land there, and we're putting up 24 plots. That's an investment of about 9 million, which we are developing, and then we'll be selling out for residential purposes. We're also building an apartment block called the Palms, which is a $21 million investment, and that's going to be used as a hotel, come long stay sort of facility. And then 4 villas, 3 of which are already been completed, and 1 is probably will be completed next month. So that's an investment of 60 million, which we will complete by December 2014. And we've already put in money on the ground for a further 16 million, which we will complete by June 2015. And that includes residential subdivisions for about 70 plots in Suva, just behind the Parliament House. And the LPG plant is setting up a new depot here for about 2,000 tons LPG storage. That's about $6 million. That'll be completed by June 2015. So once again, 77 million over 10 years and 76 million over 18 months is the kind of investment which shows you that the confidence that local investors have at this point in time is tremendous. And 153 million over the last 10 years plus 18 months. These are pictures of the newly constructed silos. This one is just coming up now. Right now it's probably somewhere here. These are new biscuits that we have just launched 2 weeks ago in the market here. These are natural. It doesn't contain any artificial flavors or coloring, and they're cream biscuits, primarily targeted at the Australia, New Zealand market. We already have this brand there, but that was with artificial colors. We're replacing that with natural colors and flavoring. And this is a new product that we've launched for the PNG market. It's flavored crackers. So we've got beef flavor, chicken flavor, beef and onion. These are very popular in the Papua New Guinean markets. They're very hard biscuits which constitute a meal along with a bottle of Coke there. This is the property that I was mentioning. This is just behind Hilton. This is the Hilton Hotel, and this is the 24 plots called the Peninsula. This is the last bit of freehold land available in Denarau, which we have picked, and 24 plots being ocean facing. This is another schematic of the same thing. This is the Palms, the terrace apartments, which I mentioned as the hotel come long stay tourism apartments that we are building here. This, I think, has about 32 apartments. Pretty high end again. And this is the Nasese Waters residential subdivisions, about 70 plots just behind Parliament House in Suva. So this will be completed by June 2015. Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you.